This is part 3 of a 3-part podcast.
Hey, this is T. Blankenship. Have you seen the new video of Wheaton Labs? It is permaculture awesomeness with all new and improved things like more rocket mass heaters, easy bake coffin, Willy Wonka, rocket cooktop 2.0, and the truly passive greenhouse. To see more, go to permies.com/tour. Again, that is permies.com/tour.
I don't remember what we were talking about, and now I've taken us off to like a dozen different tangents. Andreas, where are we at now? What are we talking about now?
Okay, so having a powerful why is important, but also having a vision that makes it doable, I think it's very important. So I want to bring up the difference between a homestead and a permaculture homestead.
Oh, cool.
And ask you guys the power that having a permaculture design in your mind while executing little tasks has with your gumption levels.
I think it's a huge improvement because everything you do, so permaculture to me makes you're stacking functions, right? So when you do a thing, you might be really doing 10 things. And you're doing things for today, but you're also doing a thing that's for 10 years from now, right? So you might spend more time thinking about it and making your plan. But then when you do a thing, you're so much more productive. And the more you do, the more your stuff is set up so that it does get easier and easier. And some people might lay around and be relaxed now that they've made their world easier. But I think other people realize they can add a little more stuff. Now that we've made that part so easy, we can, stack more functions. But I think that making a permaculture homestead, to me, makes it possible to do all the things. I think if I didn't have things be working together, if I didn't have the systems that feed each other, it would not be possible to do as many things as I do in terms of like producing my own food. And doing it in a timely manner that it doesn't take all day and it doesn't take all my energy. So I think permaculture makes it possible for me.
I think that I want to throw out what my definition of permaculture is. Permaculture is a more symbiotic relationship with nature, so I can be even lazier. And so with that said, what's the difference between a permaculture homestead and a homestead? I would have to say that for most homesteads, like they need their garden to be in perfect rows without any weeds. And they need, they need to prove that they've made Mother Nature their personal bitch through the system of rows and things like that. Everything's very organized. I think that permaculture systems look pretty feral. And so I wanna make it so that it'll all work without me. Whereas I think that a more conventional homestead is going to make systems that are very dependent on the homesteader. Like if the homesteader's not there every day, it all crashes. Whereas I want to make systems that are going to keep moving forward even if I walk away for several months. I think that that's going to be the big difference. Now, as far as a plan goes, I would have to say that conventional homesteads will oftentimes make maps too. I don't like the maps as much as making a list of all the things I want. And I kind of feel like as I prioritize this list and I start working from the top down, that what I want changes and how I want things to behave or where they go or whatever will also change. Partly because I did a thing and I learned some stuff about my land and partly because I did a bunch of things and I learned about a lot of things. And now I know more. And now I want something different. So I think a map is fine to kind of show ideas of the moment. But then I want to set the map on fire. Because if you keep that map, anybody that you were showing what's in your head, you're like, look at my map. There's way too much marriage to the map. And it's like, we have to do it this way because it's on a map. And it's a very handsome map. And because the map is so handsome, we will not set it on fire. And so, I don't know, I kind of feel like, you guys, I know that Andreas has seen lots of pictures and video of this property, and Samantha has been out this property. I think what we've got going on is pretty good, but then, we never really made a map. I mean, we've done PDCs where people made maps of this property and they proposed ideas, and I think that was really good. There were some really good ideas. I do think that while we have a lot of beauties going on, I would like to get different kinds of beauties and more beauties. Like I like how the pavilion is now. That used to be the ugliest spot between all the properties. And now I think it's one of the most handsome because it's got that rock, ground, that rock, pavilion with the beautiful wood picnic table on it, which is like together they both look like forms of art. But I think we do need more spots in our gardens to be able to have people to gather and sit. I think that'd be, but okay. All right. I want to create deep soil, good quality soil with a lot of organic matter. I want to have systems feeding systems. I want polyculture. I want things to appear feral. I also think a big one is to create systems that don't require any people to keep it going. And so that's going to be perennials or whatever. Another one I'm shooting for is for each of our food items to have a large harvest window. Because I think when you require discipline of people, it's kind of like a poison on people. And so if there's a big harvest window and there's plenty of food, then it's kind of like, oh, I'll just go get some of that out of the garden then. And that's easy. As opposed to, I have to monitor this twice a day, every day to find out when is the time. Then I have to drop everything else in order to go and do the harvest because it's such a short window of harvest. Permaculture zones. I feel like permaculture, so Andreas has pulled up the slide for permaculture zones. I feel like permaculture zones is really, really great for vocabulary. Like to be able to talk about zone 1, zone 2, it's really good to talk about. Now, and one of the things that doesn't show up in the thing that you drew is that if you have an outbuilding, or if if you're going to go to work every day in a car and it's parked over there, then everything between your home and that car becomes zone 1. Because you're walking between it a lot. Or if you don't do a car, but like here, we've got our wood shop is over there, and then it's like, and if you're going to go there 4 times a day, then everything between here and the wood shop is now zone 1. And so it doesn't show up on your graph. But the thing is to be able to just talk about what is zone 1 and what does it mean and why do we want more zone 1? How do we make a bigger zone 1? And then it's like, okay, can we transform that from a zone 4 to a zone 2? And because if we do that, then, the foods get noticed more and things like that. All right.
I wanted to bring up the zones for the idea of comfort and laziness. And it is that I think that's also one of the biggest obstacles to reduce gumption, and is putting too much energy in different places, in different zones that will not benefit you directly soon enough. So people are used to a very high level of comfort, and nature doesn't care about you. In your case, it will freeze you to death, or in mine, it will dehydrate me to death. No problem. So I think that there's also a big aspect into bringing that comfort into the homestead and finding ways in which you are not in a survival mode, but investing your resources and your time and effort also into making it enjoyable. So reminding yourself that even though you want to make a pond in zone 4 that will collect a bunch of water, having a good quality of life will allow you to do that later, instead of having a poor quality of life now and having a huge pond that you never go to.
I think one of the things about having, like, if you've got, let's say you have 10 acres, I think one of the things that destroys gumption is the thought of all the things you want to do on your 10 acres. And here's a 40-page list of all the things I want to do on day 1 of arriving. And then I think a lot of people get to, like, if they get 2 years in, they're kind of like, wow, I haven't even done half the things on page 1 that I wanted to do on day 1. And it's like, I'm so disappointed in myself. But the other thing is that it's kind of like that whole thing of, like, if you focus 90% of your love on a quarter of an acre, then I think you're going to get 10 times more done by the end of the summer than if you tried to distribute it out to your entire 10 acres. And that's where the zone system kind of comes in really good. Focus on zone 1 in the beginning. And you're going to have to completely ignore zones 3 and 4 for that first year. Because if you try, and too many people, they do this, they try to spread their attention out to the whole property that first year, and it just becomes overwhelmingly sad. So, for example, if you've got knapweed, you want to get rid of the knapweed, and if by the end of the first year you still have knapweed, that could be depressing and overwhelming, and it could really put out your gumption. But if you limit yourself to a quarter of an acre, you can eliminate the knapweed and grow some pretty nice gardens. And by the end of the summer, you've got something to show for your time. So I don't know. I think 10 acres is a great homestead size, and at the same time, it can kill you if you let it. And so this whole concept of limit yourself to a quarter of an acre for the first year, I think, is a beautiful solution.
Gotcha. No, totally agree. And I guess we can move to our next point, which is What kind of short-term goals do you think might keep someone motivated? Like, what are the little tasks that can bring gumption back?
What you have right there, that garden box, if you can sit down at the table and eat the food that you grew, that is a huge motivator, I think, at least for me, like knowing that, I'm going to have plenty of tomatoes. Like I'm never going to buy another tomato, right? Or I'm never going to have to buy any meat ever. And it's really just, so to me, like that's the day-to-day thing. Like a lot of us eat couple, 3 times a day. And if that all comes from your own effort, I think that's a huge thing. I love going to the grocery store now because I don't need to buy anything. Like I walk around, I was like, I don't buy any of that stuff, or I don't buy any of that stuff. I'm just here for the ride. And it's really neat. So I think if you can do things like these things that are quick and easy, like, growing garlic doesn't take any work. You can have all your own garlic forever. Tomatoes are easy. Just find things that you can put on your table that make you feel good. I think that's a big deal. Sunchokes, yep. Sunchokes take 0 work. Walking onions takes 0 work. Yeah. Kale just grows itself.
There's a lot of people who are agreeing with with the automatic backyard sunchoke theory who've already done it in the chat.
That's a great plant. And it's a great plant for people with livestock too. Like all that foliage, the sheep will eat that. You could compost it or use it for mulch, but my animals just eat all of that.
I saw something where David the Good said that he thought sunchokes were terrible, but he's down south where it's very warm.
Oh.
And so he never gets a hard frost. And so I think sunchokes need that hard frost. And also we recorded that stuff with Stephen Brooks the other day, and he didn't like sunchokes. And I was like, yeah, well, you're in Costa Rica. So it's not going to get the hard frost. I think that the hard frost might be a really important part of sunchokes.
Yeah, I think living in the north where it's cold, you get thankful for stuff like that. Easy, sweet starch that you do nothing. I think if you live in the tropics like Andreas, the avocados just fall out of the sky and there's mangoes everywhere. You probably don't care about sunchokes.
Short-term goals that keep you motivated. I don't know. I just kind of think about I think that the thing that works the best is to start the day with, hey, you know what would be cool? Or maybe start the week. I kind of feel like motivation to me is when I wake up in the morning and then I leap out of bed because I've got these cool things I'm doing and I want to do more. I want to move it along. I want to get to the next part. And it's like, won't it be cool if I can do the thing, blah, 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 But I don't know if I would call those goals. And I want to go so far as to say, let me introduce an idea. And you're going to hate this, Andreas, because you made this beautiful slide saying short-term goals that keep you motivated. Goals. Let's talk about goals, because apparently in the book Holistic Management, it's suggested that if you don't have goals, how do you know you're getting anything done? And I kind of want to talk about the absolute opposite of that. And I want to say, is goals a kind of poison? So here's my goal. Now, once you proclaim this goal, have you just sold your current self or your future self into slavery. Okay, future self, go do that thing. I'll wait here. You know, I kind of feel like goals kind of poison you. Whereas if you don't have any goals and you're just doing stuff because it seems cool at the moment, then you're doing stuff because, well, you're just doing stuff. And there's no goal involved. Therefore, there's no poison involved. You're doing stuff because it's like it just feels cool right now. So you're asking me about short-term goals that keep you motivated. I think having a list of stuff that would be cool sounds cool. And that's good. I love lists. I have lots of lists of all kinds of different things that sound cool. But I think the moment that I put goals on the list, that's going to reduce the amount of those things that get done. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm just crazy, and this is my crazy. This is my wackadoodle world that I live in. But I think that for a lot of people, it's very similar. And the moment you start talking about goals, I think most people shrivel up and hide from goals. Maybe?
Yeah. No, you're right.
You gotta find the way that works for you. I mean, I think that's a lot of learning and growing up is figuring out what it is that will keep you motivated. What's your technique? Do you make a list and then reorganize your list as the day progresses or the week or the year? Or are you a goal person? I mean, learning yourself, I think, is a really important skill.
You know, one good thing about having a goal is that I think most people will procrastinate. And then, if they do something cool while they're procrastinating, they got a cool thing done, but they feel like shit because they ignored their goal.
I totally do that.
So the procrastination is the good thing. So you might as well make a goal that you don't give a shit about in a way. But if it sounds like a great project and you set it up as a goal and you're going to try to brute force yourself into doing it, I don't know. It sounds crapulent to me.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of putting it, because I have all kinds of things that I have done in procrastination time, and they're amazing, but I still feel bad about it. Like I'm kind of ashamed that I have so many beautiful garments that I've created because none of them were on my list of what you need to do today.
You did that instead.
I did. I was like, how many hours?
Being proud of these things that you've created, like, look at this. This is amazing. I did this.
But when I was doing that, there were things that were on the list that were not being accomplished.
Yeah.
So following one's passions, I think, has value, but we also have to have the discipline to do the things that need to be done.
Which kind of brings up a whole other angle to a lot of motivation. A lot of people, I'm going to say a thing that might be a cruel thing for me to say to other people. And it's basically something I've said before. And it's like, a lot of people cannot accomplish anything at all unless they've got some psycho, nasty, angry manager person looking over their shoulder telling them what a stupid fuck they are. So without that toxic relationship, they cannot do anything. And I think in a podcast a long time ago, I referred to this person as Mr. Slappy, which is basically a manager. You know, I told you an hour ago to have this ready now. So without the screamy, shouty, hostile stuff, then a person cannot function. They won't accomplish anything. without a Mr. Slappy. And I kind of feel like the purpose of doing what we're doing right now is to talk about, okay, let's suppose you're one of those people and you need motivation, you need gumption, and you need to have it without Mr. Slappy. And it's like, okay, so how do you do that? And I think some of us, probably the three of us, are able to get stuff done every day. And we have different, and a lot of it is and we don't really have a Mr. Slappy in our lives. I mean, we might have the whole idea of we fuck up, we might be really hungry, or we might be really cold, or
we might have to subsist out of the grocery store.
And we might not have the money to buy groceries if we fuck up. So it's kind of like, on the other hand, so really the people that probably want to benefit from this, these are probably people that need a Mr. Slappy in their life in order to be able, like they need to go get a worky job with some sort of manager that's kind of going to be some flavor that's going to motivate them. And a lot of times the flavor that a person needs is not a kind flavor. Like they need a kind flavor in order to be able to get anything done on any given day. Then at the end of the week, they have money and now they can go buy food. And so I think, again, Gardening Gardeners solves this without a Mr. Slappy. However, if you can't develop good habits and get things done, you'll find yourself not being part of the Gardening Gardeners program anymore. So, so you've got some motivation, as we're talking about, motivation and gumption and stuff. It's a form of motivation, but it has no Slappy involved. It's a Slappy-less motivation. But if you're out on your own on a homestead and you're seeking motivation, there are things that we can talk about that can help. But one thing is I kind of feel like if you can get an automatic food pump going, then it took almost no work to get it going. It took very little work. And now it's going. And now you've got food coming out of your system. And then if you grow something else, that's a bonus. So that's an extra. And it's like now it's delightful instead of being something that, like, oh boy, if that food doesn't come through, I'm going to be so fucked. But as long as you've got all this other food, growing, you got heaps of sunchokes and walking onions and kale and whatever else growing. I recently read that chickweed might be a good food for the automatic backyard food pump. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. I think it would. All right. But
I love chickweed. I'm so happy when it comes up. I have some growing right now. It makes me so happy every time I see it.
So I think that I think a lot of people need, I don't know, something that gets them to start doing stuff in the morning as opposed to like early morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and really it's about habits. It's about building a whole bunch of habits. But I don't know. I kind of feel like all of the stuff that I do is not really from habit so much as it is, hey, what would be cool?
Hi, this is Mark. Sometimes talking to a friend or family member about permaculture can be met with a blank stare if it's all new to them. A great way to explain some of it can be over a card game using permaculture playing cards, which each have interesting facts with quality illustrations and descriptions. A wide range of people, places, and things, all related to permaculture, can be found on the permaculture playing cards at richsoil.com/cards.
And so, I I suppose I could talk about how to get stuff done in a corporate environment because I have some knowledge about that. But I don't know. I feel like I was oftentimes hired to be the motivation for others, to be a form of Mr. Slappy.
You are a very motivating force. Sure.
I don't know. It's different when you're in a professional environment, and I can use the phrase, yeah, but you're being paid a professional wage, so it seems like you'd be able to do this, in a timely fashion. That would be the professional thing that goes with the professional wage. But when we're talking about people homesteading for themselves, that doesn't carry any weight.
Yeah, you got to find a way for fire to come from within.
And maybe there can be like two categories. One of like, if I don't do this, I die. Because there's some things that do require like a Mr. Slappy in the back of your brain saying like, hey, survive, kicking you a little bit.
No, I think what you're saying is true, and at the same time, completely false. I think for a lot of people, like, I got to do this or I'm going to die. I guess I'm going to die.
I think that would send a lot of people back to the city if they got it down to the level of like either you get your food in the ground or you're going to die. Be like, I think I'm going to pack up my car. I'm going to head back to the Safeway.
That was
a little much.
I agree. I would much rather see people pump out a lot of food and it's easy and delightful, and the whole concept of like, I got to do or else I'll die. It's like if I don't do this work, then this winter I won't have a lot of variety of fun things to eat. I don't know. It's like, cause then another way of phrasing it is, hey, what would be cool? What if I grew a bunch of tomatoes and peppers and I canned salsa? Salsa's great. That'd be cool. Now you're doing it from a position of, hey, it'd be cool, rather than you better fucking do this or you're going to die.
Or like, what do you want to eat? Like, what do you like to eat? Figure out how to grow that. Figure out a way to fill in the various food groups that you like.
The key is that if you're going to be like, what do you like to eat? And it would be nice to have variety this winter instead of die. And the way that you get there is through the automatic backyard food pump. So if you've got, like, let's say you've got 8 things growing, so that when December rolls around, you can wander out to the garden and harvest enough of these 8 things to put together soup or to put together all kinds of fun things. You can, but the thing is that there's plenty of food out there. There's heaps of food. You're not going to die. Now, if it's like early summer and you're going to plant tomatoes and peppers to make salsa, you're doing it not because you have to, but because it would be cool. It'd be fun. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is that this upcoming winter, you won't have as much diversity in food. And that's it. You'll make the only reason you're doing it is because it'd be cool. I mean, you got enough food already. And so growing tomatoes and peppers to make salsa, that would be cool. That would just be a kick, right? You don't have to do it. You're doing it because it would be cool. See the difference?
Maybe. Yeah, so maybe we can change short-term goals for achievable, fun activities that keep you motivated.
Or a list of hey, you know what would be cool? Here's a list of things I think would be cool, as opposed to goals. And so smart people like Alan Savory say goals are essential. And maybe there's some people where that's their mindset and they need that. That's how they function. I think that goals are poison. but I'm a different person. Is there anybody else maybe we got some people that are like Alan Savory people where it's like goals are awesome. And maybe there's people like me where goals are poison.
Well, there's a Space Girl. Sorry, I didn't know your name. She says that just today we had to dig out the door to the chicken's coop so we could collect eggs and feed the chickens. I did not want to go outside.
Oh, yeah. But, the moment, and that's another big thing, the moment you're caring for animals, it kind of leads in this podcast that we've talked about making for about 8 months now. We haven't made yet. Like, if you have animals, you cannot travel. It's not entirely true, but there's a lot of truth to it. Similar sort of a thing. If you're going to take on the care of these chickens, then you now have a responsibility. And granted, that responsibility is poison. And I think with the Gardening Gardeners program, then if you're having a bad day and you can't go out for whatever reason, don't worry. The Gardening Gardeners are going to sort that out today. First thing. It'll all be taken care of. But yeah, if you're on a homestead all by yourself, no one else can do it. This is why you cannot travel, because something could happen and you got to be there. And those chickens are utterly dependent on you, unless you can design your system in such a way that they'll be fine with or without you. So if they are totally out in a paddock and there's a livestock guardian dog in there with them, you might be able to go a week or two. But then if you put them into a coop every night to protect them from predators and let them out in the morning, well, you now have that obligation, a responsibility. And obligations and responsibilities are poison.
I think this is a really important, I guess not a question, it's a comment, but it is. It's like if you're responsible for the lives of these animals and not just keeping them alive, but keeping them, providing a good environment for them. And so I think it's important, at least for me, to look at the things that will make me want to go outside. Like, why don't I want to go out? Well, it's cold. So put on way too many clothes so that you just kind of can't stand it anymore in the house while you're putting on layers and you're so hot you got to go out.
And when you go out, it feels great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's always a beautiful day if you have the right outfit. There's not a day that sucks if you're wearing either enough or a few, it's the correct outfit. You're fine. Another thing I used to do, which is kind of naughty, but I would do this anyway, is I would just fill my pockets with cookies. And it's like, I don't want to go out and, shovel through whatever blizzard has come in and then heave myself out and break all the waters and do the hay and do all the work. But I have to, right? They're out there in the blizzard. They don't get to be in the house like me. So I just stuff my pockets with hot cookies and I'd go. And then you don't mind so much.
So I have this weird mentality down that road. And here I'm going to say it for the sake of Andreas. Andreas, have you ever read the book Dune or any of those Dune books?
Yeah, one, and I've watched the movies, yes.
Okay. All right.
I'm reading them all right now. I love them.
Okay. So basically, if you go out into the desert and you don't wear your still suit, you're going to have a bad day, right?
Yep.
Or if you don't wear it correctly. So it's a little bit of an IQ test. If you can go 3 days in the desert with just you and your still suit, it shows that you have an IQ that's this high. And that the people that didn't make it, their IQ wasn't that high. So you've learned something about yourself. I feel like it's the exact same thing with the cold. If you go outside and you have dressed for the weather, but in 20 minutes your feet are crazy cold, you didn't exactly pass that IQ test.
Right.
Or if your fingers are cold, or if you're cold and you're just, then yeah, you didn't pass the IQ test. So I don't know. I kind of feel like if it's 30 below outside, which has never been 30 below here, but in Missoula decades ago, it did hit 30 below. In fact, it got to 100 below. I got my whole 100 below story to tell, but now it's probably not the time. The key is, if you go out and it's 20 below and you're out there for 2.5 hours because you got to do something, and you're comfortable, then it's like you just proved you have a high IQ. You passed this IQ test. You have, I would say, have you impressed yourself? No one else gives a shit.
No.
Have you impressed? If you go out, it's 20 below, and you go out for 2.5 hours to do things that need doing, and you're comfortable, I think you ought to have impressed yourself. So that's what I do, is when there's a thing outside that needs doing and it's 20 below outside, I put all my gear on, and if I've been out there a couple of hours and I'm still comfortable, I kind of feel like, yeah, right on. It turns out I'm not stupid after all. I don't know, it's a little validating. That's what gets me to go out when it's super cold.
Yeah, it's fun to have the right outfit. It is really neat to have your clothes.
Now, we had a summer where it got really hot. It went over 100 several times. And I feel like, and it was during our events, and I feel like the last PTJ we did where it got really, really hot, we aced it. So when the temperature hits 95, we start deploying slushies every hour, on the hour. And then on top of that, we go and we do all this heat protocol. We call it the heat protocol. And we've got like a dozen things that we do when it gets to be that hot. And then everybody was comfortable. In fact, at the beginning of the day, people were hoping that it would get hot so they could get slushies. I don't know. I kind of feel like it was an IQ test that we passed. We pulled it off. And we did great.
Well, these are skills that, whether you're dealing with the hot or dealing with the cold, that make your permaculture life, your outdoor life possible. Like I suck when I'm cold. Like I can't get stuff done. I can't be motivated. But if I have enough clothes on, I'm all set. That's actually why I started making my own clothes, is because wearing store-bought clothes, I might have 10 layers and I'm still freezing. So I started creating my own stuff out of wool, making, dresses so you don't have that layer between when you tuck in your shirt and your pants. Guys don't get to have this luxury, but ladies get to wear a bit of a dress. And then you're so much warmer. And I learned when I was out, when I first got my property, it's hot, a lot of sunshine, we didn't get to 100 degrees, but 80 degrees is pretty hot for me. And so I would just have long sleeve cotton and then my Carhartts, and I would just put them in a bucket of water and put them on and get back to work. And if you're dripping wet, you're not hot. You're perfectly comfortable, almost cold for a little while. Do your work. Eventually you might get hot and just do it again. Get yourself wet. I lived in Vegas that way. Every time I get warm, I just soak my clothing. And totally fine. It wouldn't work for Andreas, I don't think. It doesn't work in a humid place. I don't know what humid people do, but hot and dry people can do that.
Half of the year we're hot and dry, so it works for me.
Oh, you're hot and dry? Okay. All right. Well, I just think having these skills gives us more freedom. If you have the skills to be able, I know how to manage my own body temperature in hot weather. I have the right outfit. I know how to manage my own body temperature in extreme cold and wind. Right? I have the outfit. I know the skills. Then you're not stuck in the house. You're not, a creature of the thermostat. You're free. You can go out, do it. It's a beautiful day.
All right, Andreas. There's a whole new slide now. Okay. Stopping to look at and admire the changes in the landscapes. Remember how it was. Oh. And so what are these pictures of? Is this your place?
Yeah, it's my place as a reference, but it doesn't even have to be the landscape. It can be the house. It can be your garden. It can be... I think sometimes we get stuck too much into the now and our goals, as we've discussed, and don't take the proper time to just sit back and observe that we've done something. And whenever I think we feel that way, that might be a good strategy to just like, hey, stop and look at what your foolishness has done.
I like the video that you made for us this year. I sent you the video that I took the moment I first saw Base Camp, and I was shopping for property, and so I took a little bit of video, and it showed how this property is one giant solid rock, and the dates for the before and after, it was like they were both early May, I think. I can't remember the exact dates, but the key is that before it was like rock, clearly a giant solid rock, and they had to dynamite a shelf out to put this house in. And the cheatgrass was suffering. It couldn't even get going. And everything, what weeds were growing were so sparse, you're basically still looking at the soil with hardly any weeds growing. Compared to now, where it's gardens. So we're growing these fabulous gardens on, there it is, there's the video. We're growing these fabulous gardens on rock, on solid rock. And so I keep encountering people that say, like, oh, it's impossible to grow where I'm at because it's all sand and gravel. And I say, well, we're growing this on solid rock. So, I don't know. Samantha, you've been here. You've seen I think it's kind of the whole solid rock thing is kind of cool because they had to like blast stuff off to expose this flat rock. And it's not paved. It's not like a paved road. It's a solid rock road, which is kind of cool. Like the driveway is solid rock.
Yeah, it's quite the place. I think it's super neat when you're walking up the driveway and you're on bedrock, right? Like, and it's kind of perfect, the bedrock. It's all smooth and lovely, and it's great on your bare feet. So it's almost like it's made for it. But then you also get into these layers, like you're showing in the video, where you have these like layers of, I guess it's sedimentary rock. And so it's beautiful. Like you kind of carve into it and it's almost like you make a rock wall by just exposing the rockery that's there. So that's really neat. And because you bought a place with so much rock, you get to do a lot of art with your rock. There's a lot of fun dry stacked walls at your place. And that moon gate that you made is all just rock from the land. Yeah. So to me, rock is a huge resource. And it's like some people might be like, oh, the land's so rocky, but you get to use all those rocks. I think
so Andreas did this whole, take a look at the before and after, and it's like, this is our before and after. And I wish we had taken more video, like in the fall this year, when all of everything was we had so much lushness. We had a couple of spots where things got so overly lush that it's like the food crops we wanted to grow weren't growing because all these other things just grew to be about like 4 to 5 feet thick. And it's like because the soil in that spot is just so incredibly rich. But Andreas, you were saying before and after, and you were showing us pictures of your place. with the before and after. And so look at all that greenery. Hot dog.
Actually, there's a fun story about that. Because I was in a meeting with the Department of Agroforestry at a national level, and they have this new program for tropical dry forests. And then they said that they stopped allocating funds to the reforestation of tropical dry forests because they had proven that it was impossible to desertify these kinds of areas. And I took out my phone and I showed them this picture. And are you sure about that? And then they came and they saw the stuff that we're doing here. Basically, it's a lot of swales in our case. And now they've changed the law so that those kinds of reforestation programs can happen. But I think the point is that being foolish enough to plant a tree like these trees that are behind me, I planted all of them. And yeah, it's like what Mollison used to say, will plants grow? Yeah, they do. And then stopping to see the work that you've done, I think, even if it's small, even if it's just a garden, just thinking about the fact that you are eating food that you grew, that's magic. And so a little contemplation and observation of that is very helpful, in my opinion.
You know, you said that, like, that's eating the food that you grew is like magic. And kind of going back over all of this talk that we've been doing, I kind of feel like that the key is a lot of people put themselves in a place of desperation. Like, I got to farm to get the money to pay the mortgage, or I got to go to my worky job to get the money to pay the mortgage. I gotta. And they're a slave. They're a slave to their past decisions. And I'm trying to come up with a collection of techniques to go to transform from the gotta mindset to the hey, you know what would be cool mindset. I think that's all the difference in the world. I'm not saying it's a recipe for happiness. I'm saying it's a recipe for getting the poison out of your system, and the gotta is a type of poison. And then when you make decisions from the perspective of desperation, instead of from the position of, hey, you know what would be cool, your decisions come out to be radically different. And I think permaculture is all about the latter. Like, hey, you know what would be cool? And it's like, can you leverage permaculture to be able to live your life from, hey, you know what would be cool, instead of, and I think traditional homesteading or farming is a position of desperation. You've put yourself into a desperate situation, and now you've got to unfuck your life or else. And it's like, geez, your decisions end up being pretty shitty from that angle. So it's like, what can we do to get you out of that and into, hey, you know, it would be cool?
No, I totally get it. And for example, my neighbors here and people in rural Colombia, they kill themselves growing food, then they sell it for very cheap, and then they go to the supermarket to buy bagged potato chips. So it's like, what are we doing?
So a big part of what we're doing here is I will buy we don't do potato chips, but I do buy infinite tortilla chips. And we're not going to make tortilla chips. But what I want to do is, rather than say, you don't get tortilla chips anymore, no tortilla chips for you. Instead, what I want is to make it so that the food that we bring out of the garden is more appealing than the tortilla chips. And so part of that is that, like if we've got soup, like a sunchoke soup, that's sitting in a crock pot, then for a lot of people that's more appealing than the tortilla chips. Maybe not always, but if my thinking is that if anybody is still eating tortilla chips, we need to do better in providing food from the garden. And so what does that entail? But if I like the idea that someday we'll have this bag of tortilla chips where all the tortilla chips in it are stale because it was opened up 8 months ago and nobody's eaten any. Something like that. Like that's the direction to go in. That's what I'm shooting for. And we're growing more and more foods all the time, every year in the boot camp. And we're doing a lot of food preservation, so there's lots of stuff. There's lots of variety to be had, even now in the middle of winter. All right, Andreas, I'm kind of feeling like we ought to be winding up soon.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
We have 4 more slides.
Okay.
Is that okay? Or we can wrap up now. Let's see.
I'm feeling pretty spent. I'm ready to be done.
Okay.
If they're quick slides, okay.
Well, experiment and iterate is what we've been talking about. Having fun. Like, don't do just the stuff that makes you survive, but do fun stuff. Becoming capable in everything that so you can guide the help. Yeah, so become a little bit of a plumber, a little bit of a electrician, a little bit of all those things helps a lot to understand what they are doing. Frugality. I'm not sure if you guys have any comments on that.
Well, I think that the word frugality kind of suggests sacrifice. And I would prefer to travel a path where, like gratitude to me is not about sacrifice. Gratitude is going to be abundance. Like, I've got so much of everything. But you end up not needing money. That to me is gratitude, which I think is kind of the opposite of frugality. I think frugality is like, which tortilla chips are the cheapest? Or maybe forcing myself to sacrifice tortilla chips and buying ramen instead is better. Like cheaper. Like frugality has the word sacrifice woven into it.
So, maybe being humble with your choices.
I like gratitude, like the pursuit of something where it's a life that is so glorious and yet free, and it's like, but it's more glorious than anything you could buy.
I think for me, frugality isn't necessarily like giving up. It's that I would rather make it myself. Like, rather than go to the store and buy a bunch of fencing, I'd rather find the things that I have and create something. Or rather than go buy a fancy restaurant meal, I'd really rather plan ahead and grow my own chickens and grow my own vegetables and make an amazing soup. It's not so much that I couldn't afford it or I'm choosing the cheaper option, because a lot of times it's not cheaper to do it yourself, right? Especially if you count your time as being valuable. It's not necessarily cheaper, but I prefer my own things. I prefer to do it myself. I like the ingenuity that it takes to figure it out with the available materials. And somebody might look at that and be like, wow, that's really frugal. You just built that barn out of pallets. But I'd rather do that than go buy a load of 2x4s, right? It doesn't feel good to me to go buy brand new lumber. I haven't bought brand new lumber like ever. I get it off the cheap rack sometimes, but it's not because I can't afford it. I just don't like creating that market. I'd rather go take something like there's really old barn wood that I can score somewhere and use that. And it might look frugal, but it's more because I enjoy the craftsmanship of making my own stuff, seeing the length of the boards and seeing what can you create with that, rather than, just the thing you make just looks like what everybody else made. So, and my clothes are a lot of times something I made myself. And you could say that that's frugal. It's not necessarily, it wouldn't be cheaper. Like if I bought the wool, it would be some expensive stuff, but I actually have the sheep. So it is, I still don't think it's cheap. It takes a lot of time, but I get to do my own thing. I can imagine it and I can create it. So to me, that's frugality, is like doing it yourself because you want to, not necessarily because it costs less money.
Well, I've done food as medicine for a couple of years, so I've been not going to restaurants much, if at all. I don't know, more like once a year rather than twice a week. But I also kind of feel like when I do, it seems sleazier to me. So it's like not only the cost is like pretty much doubled for everything everywhere, but on top of that, there's just things that are normal now in so many restaurants that just strike me as really, really sleazy. And it's like, well, one way to not be caught up in all the sleaze is just don't go. And it's like suddenly eating at home seems far more delightful because of those things.
Well, if you go out, everybody has to compete on price, and nobody's hardly competing on quality, right? Like they're in business. They have to put food on your plate that doesn't cost them very much so that they can keep the doors open. And for me at home, like the food, I only get to eat so much food every day. So I'd like it to be the absolute highest quality, have the most minerals in the soil where that food was grown. Make it so that carrot just came out of the ground and I just ate it, instead of like food that came from who knows where and was grown in whatever condition based on what the market will bear, right? Like I can put more in. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you didn't interrupt me. No, sorry. I'm reading this new slide, being surrounded by people who share principles and values. And it's like, I kind of like the idea of the Gardening Gardeners program being exactly that, because there can be thousands of Gardening Gardeners programs, and then people can find the one that's an exact match for their principles and values.
Yeah. And in their area, I think a lot of people going to Montana, it seems like it's far away. So if we could have these programs going around the world, that would be really neat, because I know there's a lot of people that would love to learn and come to your place, but coming to Montana is too much.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be really, really cool. And it's so nice being around people who get it, who, think that growing your own food has value, and thinking eating organic is worthwhile, and think that taking the time to make your own stuff is meaningful. So many people that I hang out with are like, why would you do that? Doesn't that take a lot of time? Why would you bother? And so it's really fun to come to your place or go to a permaculture event and hang out with people that already get it. It's really neat.
Yeah, I feel like the conversations are so much more delicious, and it does seem like if you're with muggles, with the people that are not permaculture people, then I don't know. A lot of the conversations are about the sports teams and beer and things I don't give a shit about. Anyway, Andreas, you were saying?
I wanted to finish with this because, I think it wraps up really well with the idea of responsibility and obligation as poison, like having people around you doing something that they don't want to do will kill the project no matter what. So, but on the other hand, if you're surrounded with the people that you want, you end up what's happened with the boot camp with a bunch of people getting married and stuff. So I think that's the best example of the gardeners working, and it's that it has produced families by the ton. So
that's so cool.
All right. Is this the end? Is this the last slide?
There's more, but we can end it here.
Okay, let's end it here. If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at permies.com, where we talk about gumption on the homestead, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.
All the time.
In a world on the brink of social collapse, one website stands above the rest to fight back the zombie horde of corporate trolls. Permies.com. Take back control of your destiny and protect your loved ones from the toxic gick coming at you from all directions. Strap on your overalls and start building that bunker of abundance with the good vibes and friendly, helpful insight found at Permies.com.